All right, family. Good afternoon again, and welcome to another segment again of called as a platform conversations. I believe that you all are having a good time, and I know too well that my producers and every one of them has been able to make you all understand that today, based on the fact that we needed to adjust some certain thing and to make sure that we accommodate our guests, we will be starting this very particular platform conversation at exactly 2 p.m. But you all know too well how we run these very particular conversations Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday, exactly 1 o'clock. But I seriously want to apologize for those of you who are already sending a message to say, where is Darlington? I'm still here today. And today, you all know too well that yesterday we just finished that of the Women's Day celebration. And today it's another day. Women globally were being celebrated, we were being talked about. A lot of conversations were coming around from the space of women. And I'm like, okay, let's see how this will go, especially the fact that some of you all were saying with my testament around women need to come out of the bedroom and begin to engage in the boardroom experience. I know that sometimes I may put some conversations that put me in trouble, but nonetheless, we are ready for us to be able to give an answer to whatever questions or whatever narratives in which we put out there. And so today, I'm not going to be the only one that will be having this very particular conversation in terms of changing the narrative at the same time also setting up your own stage. I have my beautiful guest who is already at the end of this very particular recording this moment. And for those of you who are currently streaming on Dexterity Radio or Platform Radio, I want to say to you all, thank you so much. And please, if you want to join us on the conversation, you can definitely WhatsApp or SMS us on 07331 07335. I repeat, 07331 07335. That's the number for you to definitely engage with us when it comes to sending your WhatsApp, your message, or whatever you want us to know or to do about it. It's going to be a quick conversation. As soon as I introduce and I read my profile, the profile of my guest, trust me, we'll be engaging in the conversation straight into it so that we'll be able to then begin to push some certain interesting narratives in terms of repositioning our women. And I'll try as much as possible for it not to be narrowed down to women alone, but at the same time also narrowed, what's it called, to be open to everyone who actually want to operate in the place of leadership, in the place of consulting, at the same time, in the place of finding your own stage and also owning your own ground. I remember posting it this morning, earlier hours of this morning, to say, if you can set your own stage, you can direct your own show. But let's see how we can be able to pull this very particular possibility. My guest this morning, sorry, afternoon. Yeah, you can't blame me. I've been up since morning and then, so I really don't know if it's morning, afternoon, or evening. My guest this afternoon, it's a business leader, a coach, learning and developing facilitator. When I saw that for me, I was very happy. She's a host of Rebecca Talk Show. She has over 20 years of experience in the IT industry for organizations, including IBM. She has held leadership role ranging from business process outsourcing, sales transaction support, and performance marketing. Rebecca has extensive experience working with diverse team and sector. Rebecca has experience serving on various boards of women empowerment and corporate and social group. She studied information system technology and has trained in project management and system management, which is known as the ITIL. She also passionate about mentorship and volunteering. Ladies and gentlemen, without wasting much time this moment, join me, welcome my beautiful guest, the one I know that I have stumped somewhere around on social media and we've chat, but he had no clue that God has a way of organizing our destiny for us to meet together again. Join me, welcome Rebecca. How you doing? It's good to see you again.
All right, Darlington. Nice to meet you. Great to see you.
Oh
Thanks for
yeah, I
inviting me
know.
on the show.
Yeah, I know that we've been trying. I've been trying. I think that was what I've been trying to sneak up on you indirectly, but you have no clue. And I remember a few minutes ago we were talking about have been marking your territory, only for me to find out that we subscribe to one faith, one platform, one grace, and now here also my producer decided to bring you on board, and I'm like, okay, finally, how has it been toasted for you?
Hey, divine connections, right?
Yeah, divine connection. I just read your profile because so that we go straight into conversation. Like we said, it's gonna be a back-to-back talk. I just read your
Mm,
profile, and I know that's you trying to be brief. Sometimes people like you who are. I've heard you speak. I've seen you on different platforms communicated. Some certain intelligence and the place of leadership and owning your own space, identifying yourself, getting your own voice. And when I read your profile, man, I'm like, okay, she's trying to be humble. So can you please just add some certain things that is not there that you feel like, okay, fine, I just need to put this very particular one out there so that people can then be able to get a brief of who you are, especially those who are currently streaming on the radio side.
All right. I think just in addition to that, just for my faith, I am a Christian and I love impacting women. So women's ministries are amazing. So we thank God for August Women's Month. I've spoken in many different stages, including those of L'Oreal, where we've done like talks on women empowerment. So remember
Mm,
one year was a guest speaker and keynote speaker for their You're Worth It campaign, and it was an amazing experience. So I think those are some of the highlights. But I always say, when it comes to leadership, there's a lot of grunge work that happens behind the scenes. So that's the glamorous part. But working with various clients as well, I've had the privilege to travel and MC women's leadership conferences, which
mm,
was in
mm.
Turkey, the last one that I was at. And this was with executive women in IT across Middle East, Africa, and Turkey, as well as the European and Americas. So it has been such a privilege for me to work with different people. And currently, I work with different corporates as well in facilitating women in leadership development. So, which has been an amazing experience to get to meet real people who want to really make an impact on society. And then I've worked also with different social groups. We've got Own Your Crown, which we've been working with the women during COVID lockdown and
Mm,
just wanting to inspire because we found that people were discouraged. We found that people were struggling with the whole concept of being in lockdown, but
mm,
still trying
mm.
to know what their purpose is. So we got engaged in that. So I was the person driving the campaign for the morning sessions and then the weekend boot camp that we just recently closed off the first week of August. So yeah.
Wow. I must just say you are very busy and you're almost everywhere. And I think you're the right person that would have this conversation with when it comes to the issue of owning your own space.
Mm.
In your vast experience, especially finding yourself on different platforms and engaging, what is that one thing that we would want to start with that you feel like addressing before we get into the nitty-gritty of today's conversation that you have seen that has become for lack of a better word, a global phenomenon or probably a pandemic that has been affecting women, especially in terms of coming out to own their own space? What is that thing that you've seen that is almost common to every side in which you find yourself?
I think there's challenges where you feel like you don't qualify.
Mm,
It's the second guessing yourself, the imposter syndrome. It's been something that plagues a lot of women because we
mm, mm,
always seen that when you're younger, your 6-year-old self, or if you have a nephew or a niece or a daughter who is 6 years old, you
mm,
see how confident they are. They can tell you they're going to run the world. They can be anything that they want in life. You can't even argue with them about the color of something that they believe is a certain different color that you say, no, but that's fuchsia. And they'll say it's pink. They're so confident. And
mm,
I think that we've lost that confidence in second guessing ourselves, in underestimating our strength. And
mm,
so, whether you're in an executive position, whether you're a stay at home mom, whether you're single, married, there's been this common thread that you find that people have been affected by just not having that confidence in believing in what they're capable of and what they have to
mm.
offer. It's just they undermine their capabilities.
With this ability of undermine, I like the fact that you said you compared to the small. I like to use the word the small Steve and now to the big Steve. What is the thing that you feel that has actually go in the in between the small Steve and the big Steve to the point that the small Steve have the confidence to say they can own their own stage, you can do everything. All of a sudden now this big one now is here. A lot of things, and they're looking at the small Steve and they feel like, okay, whatever you were saying then, and now this big Steve, it can't join
Mm.
together. What are the things that you've seen in time that has, for lack of better word, shrink us in pushing the possibility that is on the inside of us?
Hey, it's life. Life happens, right? It's like grow up and you will find out. So I think a lot of people is like, woo, if you had given me the fine print about growing up, I would not have signed it. I would have stayed young and be with my mom, so so life happens.
Mm,
Heartache happens. Relationships, betrayal. I think once you're starting to get closer to people and you're trying to build relationships, then you
mm,
find that people sometimes can be fickle. People
mm,
can not mean what they say. And when you start dealing with real life issues, that's when it
mm,
becomes a challenge. Either we want to grow with those experiences or we start fighting those experiences where we want to
mm,
avoid the
mm,
pain,
mm,
the
mm, mm.
discomfort of developing who we're supposed to become. And that's where people become jaded to life. And that's why I always try to encourage you to stay in the wonder of life, because it's like, ah, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. There's nothing more to whatever they're telling me. So I think it's where people just kind of like have a lot of things that hurt them, on the highway of leadership. On the
mm,
highway of leadership, maybe there's a crash that happens. Someone, was not driving responsibly, and they
mm, mm,
run you
mm,
off the road and they
mm,
derail you. And instead of trying to find a way of healing and getting back and on ramp back on that highway again, sometimes we give up. And so I
mm,
think then we start having a distrust in people, and then we start having a distrust in ourselves, especially if some people have undermined our value or have not acknowledged our contribution. And we
mm,
think that we're back in school when we're kids. The 6-year-old would get a star. They say,
mm,
"Oh, Job, well done. You're the best thing, that you're the cutest one in the class." But
mm, mm.
now you're in corporate where dog eat dog, and someone can trip you up to get what they wanted in order to get ahead. And
Yeah.
so then you start finding, like, my boss didn't see the hard work I did. Look at me. I did a great job. They didn't acknowledge me. They didn't see the
Mm,
hard work that I put in. Now I have to motivate and give my feedback on how I performed. I mean, how does that work? You should know that I did a great job. So I think there's
mm,
a lot that happens between that young Steve and the older Steve that kind
mm,
of trips us up. And we amplify the negative experiences as well. And we forget that there have been really some good learning experiences along the journey.
true,
So
true,
we
true.
amplify and magnify the negative stuff. So then we just kind of like start leaking, the positive stuff, and getting depleted of the energy and the passion. And then also purpose as well.
Mm,
Our purpose will always be questioned by life experiences. Our
mm,
purpose, and when we don't know what our purpose is, and then we start questioning or losing our purpose, that's when we also surrender to whatever is happening out there. And then we start doubting whatever it is that we're confident about
mm.
before.
On today's conversation, we have in what we've titled Owning Your Own Space and Changing the Narratives. When this very particular statement hits you at first, what was the thing that comes to your mind in terms of owning your own space first and also changing the narratives?
Oh my goodness. Like, for me, narratives are so important. When I was going through a time when I lost a sense of identity, I always believe that, as individuals, especially women, like, it's Women's
Mm,
Month, so I might give references to women, but I've raised 3 sons, amazing boys. So
mm,
I'm also very passionate about the men's agenda. But for just the fact that we all go through identity crises, 1 minute you're a kid, and then you become a teenager, and you're trying to figure out what it is to be a teenager. And then you meet someone, and then you kind of like not liking what you used to like because you want to
mm,
accommodate the other person, or you have a best friend. And then
mm,
maybe you become a parent. Then you become just a mother, or just a parent. You identify yourself only as a parent, and you yourself as an individual, you kind of put that in the back burner.
mm,
And then
mm,
maybe you have, so the list goes on and on. You get divorced, and then it's like, who am I without that surname, without that
mm,
title of Mrs.?
mm,
So you
mm,
go through identity crises where at the end of the day, you don't even want anyone to know your narrative. You
mm,
start feeling embarrassed about your story. And I also, you taking into the business context, is where you're going through an interview, and you're getting interviewed, and they ask you what, when you change jobs, what happened to the last
mm, mm.
experience, and then you don't want to own your narrative. So you
Yeah.
start almost stuttering. You undermine what lessons you learned in that. So I think it's so important to own your narrative, the good, the bad, the ugly, the worst day of your life. Own it, own that
Mm,
narrative. Because
mm,
when you
mm,
show up fully as yourself, in your authentic self, then people can know what they're hiring. They know what they're connecting to, because people
mm,
want the real you. So when we
mm,
leave out spots about our journey, and it doesn't mean that you're sharing it with everybody, but it's just you acknowledging and being, draw every fragment of that piece to yourself, and you get centered and settled, and say, yes, that was a bad move. Yes, that was a wrong investment. Yes, that was a bad risk that I took, but I own it, because at the time when I made that decision, it was the best decision for me at that point.
available.
I had
Mm,
calculated the cost. I was confident about it. But oh my goodness, I didn't realize there was a blind spot. And I'm
mm,
owning my blind spot. And many times we always think we want to highlight like you talked about, the reel of this movie, this show, when you take the stage. It's also not just going at the highlights, because most of the things that make a beautiful narrative is also the adventure, the twists, the turns, and
mm,
also where the underdog is getting beaten down and almost losing their life, and you see them
mm.
rising up again
Yeah.
in victory. So I think when it comes to our work, it's that's exactly what it is. In corporate, you might fail, make a mistake, get fired, or you might lose your job, get retrenched, but own that narrative and say, you know what, I still knock on the next door and I'll get another experience and another exposure. So own the full narrative and take your space, because you're created to take up your space, take your seat at
Mm.
the table, and own it.
But if we want to look at the whole concept of, because if you look at it, when my producer actually what's it called, brought it up for this very particular topic, and I was saying to myself that one of the big struggle that I've seen, that most of our women, especially, I don't know about outside of this continent, I'm going to stay on
Hmm.
this very particular continent because that's where I am currently. One of the big
Hmm.
thing there on our women in our continent is the fact that ability for them to own their stage. They always have this very particular, for lack of better word, I would think I'll borrow your statement, the blind spot of saying that I don't want to do it because my husband is doing it. I don't want to do it because
Hmm.
I'm meant for me to submit to my husband. I don't want to do it because I don't have the capacity of pulling it. But yet, you still find out that within their little narratives, or that corner where they sit in the bedroom, or probably they sit on the couch, there is still this very particular passion that has been born in them for them to own their narrative. But for them to step up, or probably to own their own stage, for them to step up into the field of the game, it becomes a serious problem. Now, my question
Hmm.
to you, having dealt with a lot of leaders and also been on platform and experience, what do you think that this very particular woman in my continent, currently now in Africa, needs to be able to change? Because I believe that the first thing that needs to happen is from the change of the mindset. Now, how do we now begin to? Because it's easy for you to say, change your mindset, change your thought, change your idea.
Yeah.
It's easy for you to just say so, but the person who is sitting down now, listening or probably watching us, is saying, "Yeah, I know you can say that this isn't a change, but you don't understand my own shoe. You don't understand
Mhm.
my own struggle, or my own fears, my own difficulties." How then can you be able to give a practical default? I use the word default because so that it's applicable to everyone, in terms of
Yeah.
saying that regardless of the blind spot, regardless of the blockage, regardless of the religion that is on the ground, these are the method in which you can use to begin. I'm not saying to get there, but to begin to own your stage and changing your narratives.
So good. So personally, I used to say to myself, "You'll never amount to anything." That used to be my replay,
Wow.
repeat
Wow.
button. Like, you'll never amount to anything. You'll never amount
Mm,
to
mm,
anything.
mm,
And I really thought I would never amount to anything. And I'm just also amazed at that negative talk that used to be get the most airplay in my life
mm,
story.
mm,
How it started to diminish. And number one, it started with having role models that I could see. So if you're in that space where you're stuck and you really don't know how to get out of that rut to move forward,
mm,
look
mm,
around you and see people who you admire, people who inspire you, and start saying, do those people exist who actually doing what I would want to do? So that was the first thing.
mm,
And
mm,
was I was working one time in a call center, I saw a lady who was a manager, and I thought, I want to do that. I want to be a
mm,
manager. But I actually was one of the quietest people. So I thought, okay,
mm,
Rebecca, you're not even cut out to be a manager, because you're the most quiet people. You're nice and little Miss Mary Poppins. You're Miss Goody Two Shoes, and you don't have that authority. You're not bossy. So how can you even think you'll be a manager? But the fact that I always wanted to help people, my underlying mission and purpose in life is always like, I want to help
yeah,
others.
people.
And
Yeah.
that for me was helping clients find solutions. It was helping my team members find their talent and demonstrate their gifts and their expertise in helping find solutions. And that's why I became a manager, because I saw a lady was doing it in such an authentic way. And then from there, I would say the next thing is write it down. So
Mm,
when I
mm,
moved into management, and there I was like, yay, I got to be a manager. I looked around and then I saw, oh my goodness, I can be a manager of managers. Oh, I want to do that. So now the dream became bigger, and there are dreams within our dreams. So whenever you
mm,
make the first next step, it'll lead you to another tributary, which will lead you to the next thing. And I wrote down and I said, okay, I want to be a senior manager and executive in 4 years. 4 years was the commitment I gave myself. So it's
Mm.
important when you're stuck is to write down, like, when do you think conservatively? So I was very conservative. I wasn't too aggressive. I was like, oh, people around here, like in the 50s when they become executives. I kind of
Yeah.
like in my 30s. Rebecca, I think you're kind of stretching it. And I wrote down 4 years. And then I said, okay, what kind of skills do you need? And and I looked up job specs, of what I aspired to become. And I saw the skills that they required,
Yeah.
and then I saw the skills gaps that were there. And I realized, oh my goodness, I need to work on getting certified in a certain skill. And then I
Yeah.
went on and I studied it, quietly. And I asked my boss to approve it. And then the next thing I knew, 2 years' time. So I put 4 year target, but
Yeah.
in 2 years' time, I got a call to do an interview. And I went for the interviews and they said, Rebecca, you made it. And you know that woman's second guessing voice came up. That was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I said to my boss, give me 1 more year to kind of grow up into this position. Like, hello. And he's like, what are you saying, Rebecca? I'm like, no, honestly, I think I need to grow and really like
Mm, mm,
become more
mm,
skilled. And he's like, I do not want to hear that, Rebecca.
mm.
They think you're good enough. So we're going to put you on it. So there we go. I got myself a coach. I got myself a mentor because I needed the support that I needed. And
True.
I was managing 8 managers. Can you believe that? 8 managers reporting to me, and it was end-to-end IT environment with about
Yeah.
400 employees. And that team was like the most complex structure possible. It was for a foreign client. And we had SLAs to the moon and back, and you would pay penalties in euros if you missed your targets. So when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
look back and like, what was I signing up for, Rebecca? But
Mm,
the
mm,
naivety of my vision, like, I want to do it, and also writing it down and getting the help and support that you need, knowing that I couldn't figure it out by myself. And I think one of the things that really was in my good stead was I always believe that whoever's working around you in whatever team that you're in,
mm.
you don't have to have everything figured out to step out into
That's
what
the
you believe you're supposed to.
that's
But
that's
there are
it.
people around you who are well equipped. So I respected the managers who reported
Mm,
to me. I used to say to them, you know this environment better than me. You're the
mm,
expert. I'm the captain. I'm being asked to lead this ship. But you
mm,
need to run your departments the way that you see fit. But if I see
mm,
something has changed, we'll need to talk about it. But I'm
mm,
trusting you. I'm only as strong as you are. So that
mm,
was where they felt like, oh, okay, she's not coming here to boss me around. So in leadership, it's not really always being the one at the top. It's really about saying, how do we work together? And working
mm,
in a matrix environment where you're global accountable leaders, where you have to report feedback and performance.
mm,
Another thing is that I had to learn also to be accountable, to call out
mm,
things. If I made a mistake on a decision, to say, hey, we decided to change this strategy or this process and it's not working, how do you fix it? And also be able to allow people to interrogate your your
mm,
your environment. So it was
mm,
audit readiness. So you got to be well equipped to be able to tell your story. So whatever environment you find yourself in, even as women, like you're saying, from the bedroom to the boardroom, you should be
mm,
able to also account for your decision on whatever dream that you decided to pursue. Don't feel bad when people question your dream. You
mm,
need to be able to back up your dream and say, okay, this is why I believe I should be doing this. And I think in couples, marriages, I find that women will have lots of dreams where they don't make the decision to go for them. Because also the husband hears them talking about it, but they're not showing any evidence of doing anything about
yeah.
it.
Mm,
So I
yeah.
think also it's like when you start taking the first few steps, the people will come alongside you and support your dream. But when you're just sitting and waiting for someone to do something amazing for you,
Mm,
then obviously
mm.
people don't see the evidence of what you're trying to do.
Mm. I think with there's a lot of things in which you said. It just almost feel like, okay, fine, you were preaching my message I was preaching yesterday, which is all good. It just shows
Oh,
that it's just so because one of the
right.
things I was addressing with the women is the fact that I needed them to understand that, and in which you said it on the last statement of yours now, that you might be the one sitting currently now waiting for somebody to go into the front line to be able to do that very particular thing. What if somebody's also waiting for you to go there so that they can be able to also use their resources? And like you said,
Right.
you might be shocked to see people who are literally out there waiting to support you. That is something in
Mm,
which you said that is very important. And I began to notice that my continent, and this is me now addressing my own people, is the fact that we are quick to accept that, to know it all. And so because of that, we are not quick to seek advice, seek mentor, seek coaching, and that also now find a way of crippling our experience in terms for us to be able to take hold as a woman. Because I see Sarah's message here, but I wanted to address this very particular before we go into Sarah's message, because us. Now, as a woman, what is the importance? Because for me, I could hear you talking about when that very particular promotion I mean, what you call, you got a promotion for you to manage managers. Now you were quick for you to say, okay, fine, let me get people who are of this very particular thinking. I like a particular saying that new levels, new devils, new experience, new everything. You just have to be able to let go of everything and get everything new. My question is here now: what is the importance of coach mentorship and also coach mentorship and also teaching, especially when you know that you are about to put your leg underwater, new territories
Mm.
experience? What is the importance of that?
Oh, it's extremely important. It's
Mm,
so important to a point where I don't preach what I don't practice. So when I
mm,
was
mm,
a young manager in my early stages, there was a lady in HR who had been a people manager, and I gravitated to her. So I said to her, I'm going to have weekly meetings with you. Please tell me what mistakes new managers make,
mm, mm,
early in the career. And she says, oh, sure. So every week she would make time during lunchtime, would sit down and would go through the top questions I had. And she just mentored me. And I was
mm.
also in an environment where you had to get feedback from employees. We had a weekly survey from employees, and they'll tell how the manager's doing. And this was
Okay.
like public information. And this team was saying, we're not going to tell you if everything is well, but if things are not okay, we're going to tell you. So how on earth are you going to get a good satisfaction rating? But at one point, I actually was the manager of the month, and I got awarded.
Okay.
And it was such favor from my employees because it wasn't like they were paid to do it. You knew that it came from a sincere place. So I
Mm,
think it's so important because number one, they've been along the way that you've not been before. So they can see the tripwires, they can see the potholes, they can see the boulders that you're going to face, they can see a lot of solutions as well. They might not
mm.
have all the answers, but they also have a connection maybe with a network that you might not have access to, and they can point you
True.
to that.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
figure out the answer together. Or even if you fail, you've got a shoulder to lean on and say, hey,
Mm,
I messed up, and how do I get back on my feet again? And accountability, it keeps you on your toes. So there's a difference between a mentor, a sponsor, and a coach.
mm,
Because when you're looking for promotions, make sure you get a sponsor. A lot of women are very good at getting a mentor. So a
mm,
mentor will cheer you on, they will guide you, they'll support you. But a coach will challenge you in different ways where they ask you to start digging within you to
true.
unlock a lot of the answers that are
Mm,
within you. And then a sponsor, normally in a work environment, especially if they've got decision making power, they're the people with influence. Because many times I made one mistake one time in a politically arrived work environment. It was a different work role that I had, which I was running Central, East, and Western Africa department, and it was quite interesting. But there's
mm,
a point where I heavily relied on a mentor, thinking they had influence, yet I needed to leverage and almost like cultivate my relationship with my sponsor, who could say
mm,
something about maybe the opportunities in a business strategic environment that I was working in. So I think it's
mm,
important to know what the difference between that. And a coach will sometimes feel like they're wasting your time because they're asking you to do homework and they're asking you so many questions, but they're literally stretching you in your strategic thinking skills, your
mm,
business
mm,
acumen, and really making you understand that, hey, you got to rise up to the next level. A mentor, you need them for support no matter what. So, and always have that within your work environment as your network. So I think it's quite critical to have that, because I personally do that for myself. When I was dropping balls, I was going through an emotionally stressful time on a
mm,
life situation, and then at work I'd just been promoted to a role that I was running the sales hub, and I was covering multiple countries, different targets, and I remember calling my coach and I said, I'm dropping balls, you know. Then he says,
mm,
okay, Rebecca, make a list, start having a schedule, do one thing at a time, exercise, eat. And then he asked me certain questions, and I had to go home and do some homework and some soul searching. And when I
mm.
came back, I was like another leveled up version of myself. I had this warrior mindset, like, we are winning this game. I'm taking
Yeah.
up my
Yeah.
space, because
Yeah.
this is not going to be a story of like whatever happened to Rebecca. She is not going to die and be
Yeah.
buried under, the rubbles of defeat. She's going to rise up again. So it's so important to have a support system around you.
Okay, with that being said, I think I'm so happy before I was still because this one is just popping up currently now here. This person is
Mhm.
asking, at what level do you need to have which one? Because currently now your pocket may not be able to carry all the levels. So which
Mm.
level determines the first, and which one is the default you need to carry between in bracket here? She says mentor, coach, or sponsor. Wow.
Ah,
Okay.
very good. Yeah. So I think number one, you'll find that there are different coaches out there who can offer different level brackets. So you might say, "Hey, I don't have money. Can you please coach me?" So there's some people in the process of getting certified, and they
Mm,
actually need individuals that they can coach for free in order to up their credit hours. So that's
okay.
one aspect. And then the other thing is that a coach will need them in any level of your life. Trust me, because what happens is that you can be a person that's very comfortable with where you are, and you can
Mm,
tell your mentor that I'm doing this, and they'll say, "Oh, great job," whatever. But a coach can start sometimes see through you and start challenging the way that you're approaching things. So
mm,
that's important. But from a bracket perspective, coach, you can get them anytime, a mentor anytime. A sponsor now is a little bit different. So you need to talk to maybe your mentor and ask them which sponsor that you need to go through. That's through after having done research on which roles you want to navigate in. Like I personally used to volunteer in women's initiatives. So I was the chairperson for the Women's Network Group for IBM South Africa
mm,
for a few years. And from there, I was networking with a lot of senior executives and directors and vice presidents. And these were
mm,
global roles. So if, let's say, they wanted to do something, they'll call me up and say, "Rebecca, who do you know who can do certain things?" Then what I did as well is that then if I needed something from a business perspective, then I'd call them for input, but because I was also contributing to their agenda. So if they
mm,
needed support with their marketing strategy, if I contributed to that, and then they will remember me. "Oh, Rebecca helped us with that. So let's make sure that we support her in her initiative." So I think with a sponsor, they have to see a track record. They have to know that they're backing up someone who's competent. So you need to
mm,
make sure that you're showing up and delivering on your performance. So whenever you have a long-term goal from your career, make sure that you're performing well in your current role. Because many
mm,
people check out from the current role and they start being sloppy, and then they still want a sponsor to recognize them. That sponsor might
mm,
not see their performance at all. So make sure that you're volunteering for stretch projects, you're being visible, and you got a good track record. But your name
mm.
will be spoken in corridors when they're looking to promote someone if you are showing up fully in the different roles that you've been asked to play, even if it's in a volunteer environment.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you're saying this. The only thing that keep coming to my head is a story, and I'm very happy that the both of us will subscribe to this to the same fate, and which is a story of how Paul needed a sponsor in his life, which happens to be Barnabas, who ended up
Yeah.
coming and showing forth to actually because the Bible says that immediately Paul noticed that something is wrong with where he was. They sent, I mean, he ran
Mhm.
away. And he actually wanted to quickly get into the circle of Peter, James, and John, but he had no clue. And that's exactly what you've actually said. He had no clue that there was a Barnabas that was speaking. And Barnabas was quickly to go meet Paul to say to Paul, "Come down there. I would be the one to be able to speak on your behalf because I've seen I've
Yeah.
seen what you have done." And so when Barnabas was talking to the people, Barnabas, I mean to Peter, James, and John, Barnabas was making them to understand these are the things in which he has said. These are the things that God has revealed to him. These are the, like you say, these are the hours in which he has put on the table. And this is the
Hello.
thing. And these are the things which I want to say to my women out there. And you know too well that I'm passionate about you all is the fact that no matter how small, like Rebecca is saying, no matter how small it is, please make sure that at least try to blow your own trumpet. I like saying this very
Mhm.
particular statement, and people think that okay, fine, it's an egoistic statement. Trust me, it's not, because we live in a world where everybody is talking. If you're not talking, nobody's gonna hear you. What is the statement?
Yeah.
I like saying
Mhm.
that if you don't say here am I, nobody will say there you are. You need to constantly say here am I until somebody will
Mhm.
now say, okay, there you are. Then they bring you into the stage or into the platforms in which you need to be recognized. Now, to be able to go straight down into Sarah's question all the way from Kenya, Sarah's question was asking in the sense that she is struggling currently for her to come out with a cooking, what's it called, with a cooking business that she wants to do. But her husband is currently now saying that the business in which you were doing, I mean, this business in which you want to go into, that's a business of me, myself, and I. I'm the one supposed to enjoy this very particular food. What's your problem? And yet she wants to take it on within her community. What advice will you give Sarah all the way from Kenya? Because now the thing there is she wants to engage. I think she has passion in food business, but her husband is saying this is we have traditional men. I call them modernized
Mhm.
traditional ones. whereby their
Yeah.
brain is still that the woman belongs to the kitchen and to the bedroom and not to the boardroom. And that's where I am
Mm,
trying that. If our women is beginning to see people like your kind who are active in the boardroom, at least maybe that might also give them encouragement. And that's the reason why, for me, when I say women like your kind who are doing what you are doing currently, I am quick to say, let's make noise about it quickly, because the more
yeah.
noise you make about the women who are doing this, the better for other women to see that it is possible for you to actually do this. Your advice to this Sarah lady, how will she be able to communicate an intelligence to this husband, but at the same time also still shows the part of respecting the husband, because it's a two different
Mm,
ball. You still
yeah.
have to show respect to the husband, but at the same time also communicate to say, husband, this is me, this is what I want to do. I don't know, you know the words in which you want to say concerning this very particular lady called Sarah, all the way from Kenya.
Sure. So I think one number one, she needs to approach him in the way that she knows when he's more open to listen. So I remember
Mm,
talking to one friend of mine where she was saying, "Oh, I shared this idea with my husband and he was not listening, and I'm so tired of this." And I said, what time of the day was that?" She's like, "Oh, it was like a certain day." And then I said, "Okay, so is your husband a morning person, or It's like, "Oh, actually, it wasn't the best time because he was still kind of waking up." So there
mm,
you go. So some number one, just kind of set the atmosphere where they're more listening more. So if they're
mm,
busy with something, you don't have their attention, so it's difficult to communicate that idea. Then number
mm,
two, I would recommend maybe to do write up of a business plan, just to kind of like show your proposal to say, okay, this is the idea, and this is how I'm going to run it, and this is the money that's going to come out. It's the same thing even when you're running a business. When I used to run to try to get sponsorship or funding for certain ideas, I had
mm,
to speak more financial numbers, data driven conversations compared
mm,
to more, strategy driven conversations. So it was more numbers if it was the CFO. Because the
mm.
CFO says, okay, it's great that you want to change the world, but how much money are we going to make here?
Yeah.
So if there's no money sense in it, they're not going to listen. So if your husband is more numbers driven, or if he likes to see things in an Excel spreadsheet instead of a PowerPoint presentation, girl, just put it in a PowerPoint presentation or Excel spreadsheet, whichever one that he prefers. So just try to do things like that. And then the other thing is that try to kind of like do a little mini business model that can be
Okay.
practical, where you might say, okay, maybe it's friends from church when they come for the cell group meeting, if they host people at their home, then try to
Mm,
maybe serve them that food and then ask them, what they think of it. And then just based on the feedback and try to sell people maybe around the neighborhood, but
okay.
in a more way that doesn't disrupt the family. And then, because the thing is that I always say, find a way to win. Pastor Andre always says, find a way to win. So it's not
Yeah.
about disrespecting him, or because many times if it's a gift that God has put in your life, one of my things that have pulled me in purpose, no matter what I do, I always say, if I die and I'm accountable to God, and He asked me, Rebecca, did you use the gifts that I put inside of you? I
Mm.
cannot come back to him and say, God, I was divorced. That's why I couldn't do it. I cannot say, no, my husband told me no. That's why I
Mm,
couldn't do it. I cannot say, no, I didn't have money. That's why I couldn't do it. Because many times when you really look behind that reason,
mm.
we still could have found a way to win. We still
Right.
could have found a small way to start making our dream a reality. So find
Mm,
a way to win and pray over it. God will give you favor. And also just say, God, give me favor with my sponsors. Your husband is a sponsor. I guess he's one of the sponsors and a special what you call the stakeholder. So
yeah.
you just pray for favor with them. The same thing we would do in corporate or any business. There's some
Mm,
people who block your dreams. I remember one time I had a promotion that was blocked by someone who felt like Rebecca does not qualify to be promoted to this thing, even though I'd gone through the process. And so I had to call that person and say, I know you don't trust me. I know you don't think I'm the best person, but I'm
mm,
invested in making this company a success. I want to
mm,
contribute. And if I'm going to ask for help and support from a mentorship and perspective, so give me a chance. I wouldn't
mm,
take up this role if I was going to run it to the ground. So can you just support me so I can get on with the job? And finally, they backed off and they said, okay, fine, we'll give her a chance. And they were watching for me to fail. And they put a bet on me like for 3 months to say, oh, she's going to fail on her face. And it lasted 3 years. I was just
like
flowing in my calling, right? But there
yeah.
will be sometimes a no, but find a way to win.
No, I think you said something that is very interesting for me. That as you're saying, you were just playing a thought because Pastor Andre likes saying that very particular thing.
Oh
And
yeah.
one of the best what he likes saying that all angles, explorate everything to make sure that you have all your ducks in check so that they don't fail. Interesting thing that you say that is very at the very paramount that is very particular moment is ability for you to, because part of owning your stage also is the fact that you have to also talk to your enemies. And when I mean enemies,
Mm.
that includes enemies, frenemies, and frenemies.
All right.
According to you, and there's these frenemies that are close to you, but you don't know that they're your enemies. There's
Oh yeah, they're
frenemies that
checking
are
out.
very far and they are planning to kill you. And so, but in your own case, you were willing to have a conversations around people who don't like you, but at the same time,
Mm.
also you did not compromise your standard. What are the value system that you put in yourself or that you discover? Because I think for me, for when you were saying that it's based on value system, that's a value that you communicated within yourself and you're willing to bring that on the table to the point that you are not going to short sell yourself simply because somebody does not approve you, but yet you are still going to
Yeah.
meet either that frenemy, enemy, or whatever to be able to
Oh yeah.
have that conversation to say, I can do this. What are the value system that governs that boldness and the conversations for you to be able to approach the who's that says no to that says no to you?
Oh, yeah. So, the very good question. So, number one, I think I always believe that processes worked for me
Okay.
because I'm not a person that was tall or loud, like who
Mm,
had this,
mm,
like,
mm,
oh, like, yeah, she's the leader. But I actually had this thing of where I understood the process. If the process says this is the process of getting in a promotion, I understood
mm,
that
mm,
when the people who approved me to be on that role, they'd followed the process and they felt that I was qualified. And
mm,
then the other thing is that I always believe that when it comes to the office that I'm taking on, so
mm,
whatever that office looks like. So it's not about Rebecca anymore. It's about the office. So the office is,
mm,
as an executive for this role, you need to execute on the deliverables, their KPIs, their
mm,
audit results that you got to make sure are up to par. There's compliance, there's client relationship building and maintaining, there's retention for the client, there's
mm,
profitability. You got to. So for me, I felt like this role is required in order to keep the part of the business running. There's an engine for the business. There's a part that's important to, as part of the bigger picture of the vision
mm,
of this
mm,
organization. When they set up this structure, this department is needed. It's
yeah.
an intricate part of it. Whether it seems like it's a small department or a big department, it is an
Mm,
intricate part of this design of this
mm,
business. So that office of a leader is required. So it's not
mm,
about Rebecca anymore. It's saying this office requires me to be accountable. So I want to be the instrument that serves in that chair. That's about taking my space. I
yeah.
want to be that instrument that takes up that chair. And Rebecca is the best person right now. Maybe her temperament, her personality, her gender, her voice, whatever it is, her mission in life, the way she connects to people, the team members, in building up their skills, leading, developing future leaders. That's what is needed for such a time as this. And that's
Mm,
where you also start not allowing the emotions to get in the way. And that's where you actually like say, okay, let me lead and let me take the stage. Maybe
yeah.
I prefer sitting behind the scenes, but right now they're asking me to be in the spotlight. And it's
Mm,
not for my glory, it's to keep the show rolling, right? Because people
true.
paid front row seats to watch this
Mm,
show a success. So make sure that you deliver on whatever you need to do and perform that in that position. So that when a position is asked, like I love to give the example of Tuli Madunzela.
yeah.
She's well known, but one of the things that she really was clear about was her office requires her to be accountable.
Yeah.
Her- so she just was saying, okay, it's not about me, it's not about you, but according to this office, we need to cross check this process. We need to
Mm,
make sure that we call to account this thing. So I think that for me was just like, wow, you can lead in any environment, whether you
mm,
look the part or not. It's about your mission. And when you take up that office, are you fulfilling what's required of you? And
mm.
in with the true value. So that those are the values that have really worked for me many times where you say it's not about me, it's about what the mission that needs to be done. So let me contribute. Let me bring in the skills that I have, or I need to call someone who can guide me in helping me to get this work done.
The biggest thing that I notice when it comes to women at this very particular point, and especially also with men, these days I'm beginning to see it also happen, is the fact that we have this very particular thing called the fear factors, fear of the unknown.
Mm,
What will people
mm,
say? what would come out.
Yeah.
I
What if I fail?
exactly the what if syndrome. How do you want to
Mm,
address that very particular what if syndrome that somebody currently now who is watching and is saying, I hear you, Rebecca, you were saying all these and stuff, but what if? You know,
mm.
how do you want to address that very particular thought?
So one of the things that I found I've been passionate about is running, facilitating vision board
Mm,
sessions. So
mm,
I can
mm,
do that in
mm.
a one-on-one coaching session or in a
Okay.
work. And so part of it is about what do you see, what do you aspire to become? And then we do talk about what's really holding you back, what's slowing you down, what's your
Mm, mm,
derailment factor. And many times on the top list is definitely fear. It's about
mm,
fear of success, it's about fear of failure, it's fear of the unknown. And fear can appear to you, and it's a feeling which can
mm,
also crop up inside of you, and based on past experiences, maybe you tried it and it didn't work out. So you actually feel like, you know what, been there, done that. I don't want to, feel
go
the
back
pain
again.
again.
Mm,
So that
mm,
fear comes in there. And then also just feeling like, if I fail, then it's going to be a huge embarrassment, et cetera, et cetera. And so I always say to people, number one, feel the fear and proceed anyways,
okay.
because
Mm,
the concept of saying be fearless, it's saying there's going to be less fear the more you amplify the voice of courage, the more
mm,
you tune up the volume, just like the way people are on radio. There's the frequency
mm, mm,
factors. Like if I
mm,
tune into the frequency of fear, then I'm going to be debilitated. I'm going to be
mm,
crippled by fear.
mm,
But then
mm.
it's not an empowering spirit. But if
Okay.
I say, okay, fear is a message to me, it's telling
Mm,
me, Rebecca, be cautious. Rebecca, watch out.
mm.
And there's nothing wrong with that message. But if
Of
I
course.
allow it to consume me, then definitely we got a problem, because now
Yeah,
if it's the one in the driver's seat, it's definitely going to crash us off the road.
yeah,
So
yeah,
if I
yeah.
just amplify the voice of courage, the voice of bravery, and proceed anyways, because many times when I put my hand up for many job roles, I would look at the job spec later on and say, whoa, Becca,
Mm,
what were you
mm,
thinking? Like, what if you had failed? This would have been terrible. And but
mm,
the naivety of faith for me, it was like, I think that's something that's just served me, and just the willingness, like I want to do this, I want to help people.
yeah,
So
yeah.
purpose also will be bigger than your fear. Allow your purpose to be bigger than your fear, because the
Mm.
discomfort will be there, but when you have purpose, it'll allow the voice to kind of to tune down, and then the voice of faith will kind of be tuned up. So just keep proceeding with or without the fear, because fear will always be there.
I think I like something which you said. As in, no, I think I need to be very very careful when I'm with you. You keep bringing out my thought, keep bringing out my conversations I want to say, but which is all good. It just shows that we are from one source. We pull from one vine, which makes our branches very fruitful. In which you
Amen.
say that allow your purpose to be bigger than your fear. Ah, no,
Mhm.
that one for me, it's the big thing because the truth of it is the fact that no matter what you want to engage into, fear will always be there. Fear will always be there. And I like saying, I think I even said it yesterday also in my teaching. And I said to the people, I said, even me sitting here today, there are points whereby I wanted to do some certain things and I was so afraid. And I just said to myself, Darlington, he said, the worst case that can happen is the fact that you fail, but at least
Yeah.
you've done the job and case close. And so before I
Mhm.
know what was going on, all of a sudden, boom, it worked. And I'm like, okay, whoa. Imagine what would have happened with the children of Israel if they don't put their leg on the water after holding that very particular act of covenant. The
Mhm.
act of covenant means their vision, their dreams, the desire for them to
Yeah.
make sure that the Lord's house is in their bosom, but yet they have to move forward to put their leg on the water before we know what is going on. The water become a rock, and all of a sudden they walk on that very particular place. Or the fear for Moses to strike that very particular sea. And I was saying that Moses is
Mhm.
the first guy that actually created that very particular business model called the aquarium because all of a sudden now
What?
you're seeing this glass and you're seeing this shark walking in this glass and you're like, whatever, it's okay.
What?
But nonetheless, there was a fear that was in there that was actually with Moses, but yet he still chooses to strike that very particular, that water to make sure that the occurrence happens. Now, this is a thing in which I want you to talk about because I can see that my time is quite running fast when you're having good time. And I think that's the most
Yeah.
important thing here. Now, this is the thing in which I want us to talk about as we begin to bring these very particular conversations to a close is how then the way begin to say, let's put the first step forward. The first step
Mhm.
forward. because the first step, in which one of the things in which I'm very happy about you is the fact that you are also into, I like, for lack of better word, what's it called, development, and also you facilitate process for people. What are the first step that someone needs to get themselves or their mind into to say, yes, I hear all the big things in which I need to do. I hear all this very particular grand scheme of having a vision, drawing it. But what are the first steps from myself, as Darlington, or that Sarah currently now in Kenya, or the Kensani currently now from Soweto, who don't even have all the possibility and the answers to this very particular thing, but just need
Mm.
one thing that can make them say, if I can get this one right, I'll be able to run the rest. What is it?
Well, it's kind of a tricky question because I think it's customized for each individual based on their
Okay.
experience, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think a common thing is definitely acknowledging where you currently are. Because
Mm,
when we continue to feel stuck and it's like I'm stuck. Okay, what are you stuck at?
mm,
That's your current location. So just like driving a navigator system, they always ask you where you're going. You put in your destination, and then it
mm,
asks you to confirm your current location. And based on your
mm,
current location, then we can calculate how long it's going to take you to get to where you are. So many people compare themselves to people who've got a longer term journey. And they think like, oh my goodness, they're getting home quicker than me, but it's in
mm,
reference to where you currently are. So
mm,
acknowledge the fact that maybe you don't have the money, maybe you don't have the skills, you don't have the qualifications to get to where you want to be. Okay,
mm,
let's agree. You don't have it. So let's stop having that conversation over and over again to say, but I
mm.
don't have this and I don't. Okay, you don't have the money. Okay, next. So where do you want to go? That's where I want to
Yeah.
go. And then the next step is how do you get there? The how do I get there now? Now I start saying, okay, are there free opportunities that I can get to get the training? Is there
Yeah.
online platforms I can get the training? Is there someone who knows somebody? And then I
Mm,
start taking the first step forward. I think that's some of the things that I can just give advice to someone who might feel like I'm stuck. Yes, you're stuck. And we're not disagreeing with you that you're stuck, but where are we going? We can't
at least
camp
that's the
out here.
reality.
We're not
So,
yeah, we're not camping out on the side of the disappointment. We're not camping out on the side of rejection. But
yeah.
what do we want? Based on what we want, let's start moving there. And even with coaching, sometimes people say, no, I can't afford the coaching. But you'll be surprised at how many coaches, like during the COVID lockdown, were
Yeah.
willing and are still willing to give you free services because they know that we're in this together. They're saying, okay,
Mm,
if we can just get you out of your rut, that means you're going to help 20 more women that I, as a coach, will never reach. You're the person that's going to reach those 20 women, but you being stuck in there is not serving anybody. It's not
mm,
serving you or your
mm.
community. So yeah, let's get on with it.
Okay, with that, I think my producer have something that she wanted me to ask you, and
Okay.
when we get to producer's question, and then you know that
Ooh,
okay,
you got to
she's
answer that
on.
one.
And
Mm.
and the things you want me to find to ask you at this very particular moment is what's your theme song for the year, and with that very particular theme song, how has that very particular song give you courage through this very particular pandemic? So it
Oh,
means
I
not
like
just ordinary song, but just the theme song for the year that with this very particular pandemic you were able to navigate through with that very particular song. So
Yeah.
what's the song and how has it been able to help you navigate through this very particular, for lack of a better word, COVID-19?
All right. So when I do my vision board every year, I've got a theme word and I get a
Okay.
theme song. So I found the theme word rise up. And I was like, Rebecca, you're not going to die. You're going to rise up. So the rising up is also about rising up to the next level, next
Okay.
version of yourself. With IT, you got version 4.0. I was like, you're going to
Mm.
level up to the next version of you,
Level up.
Rebecca. Hey. So it's like Rebecca 4.0. So now it's like, let's keep on. And then I found this song by Andrew Day. It had been out for a while, but it was Rise Up. And
Wow.
I just cried over that song. And it just talks about
Mm.
I'll rise up in spite of the pain, in spite of the
Mm.
ache. And I'll do
Mm.
it again and again and again for you. And I
Wow.
thought of my
Wow.
sons, my three boys, like they gave me purpose because they just challenged me to say, Mama, keep rising up as the lioness that you are. And I know who's watching me, so I better rise up, for you, whoever's
Mm.
around me who's watching my life. So yeah, that's my theme song. And I'm actually
Wow.
practicing that song. I want to sing it for my birthday, so I'll try to do like a cover for it. It's really like was such a powerful song that really helped me through a tough time. And
Okay.
even with the lockdown, I said, we might be locked down, but my dreams ain't locked down. So I'm gonna keep rising up. Yeah.
We might be locked down, but we're not locked out of the possibility. That's how I
All
like phrase.
right.
We're locked down, it's okay, but we're not locked out. I think for me, one of the theme songs which I find of recent, I'll use the word of recent, it was a
Mm,
title of a song called Living Hope by Phil Wickhams. And that
mm,
very particular song just make me know that, okay, there's still hope, regardless of what is happening, there's
mm.
still hope. And
Yeah,
sometimes people just feel that because you're a leader, you're sitting on the forefront, that you don't have afflictions and troubles and fears and anxiety. The only difference is just the fact that we've learned how to master the act of still, like you say, rise up, or probably like my kind, still having hope to look up into for us to be able to pull some certain possibility. Now, the
and
thing
I
there,
call
my
it
friend,
leading while bleeding.
call it what?
Leading while bleeding.
You know, yeah, no, you see that
Yeah,
that's
you
the
got
best one.
scars
You are
and
bleeding.
everything, but you keep bleeding, right?
That is everything that is cutting you, and you are thinking in your mind, damn it, if this is what
Woo.
teaching is all about, I think, like you said, I think I need to remain small. I don't need to grow too
Mm,
quickly. But which is one of those things
mm,
that, like the Bible says, everything about us as believers is the fact that it's mysterious to the hands of the enemies and the devil. But
amen.
we are in Christ Jesus. We know too well that everything for us is so are we here on this very particular earth, which means we don't operate in fear, we don't operate in doubt. We understand that those
Yeah,
things are real, but we don't look up to those very particular things to give us our definition. Now,
all
my
right.
final question, as we begin to bring this very particular thought to a close, two questions here, because I can't say it's final, two questions. And the first one here, when is the right time to quit? Because I know everybody likes saying the right time to go into business, right time to do this, right time to do that and stuff. But what I would like you to know, we also need to know the right time to quit. I'm saying this because I remember 5 years ago, I wanted to learn how to play guitar. And the guitar is actually here by my side. I wanted to learn how to play guitar, paid for it, went into that very particular studio, fired up, like, yeah, I'm going to do this very particular thing. And it's by the time the coach just played the first note, whether note or chord, I'm like, please play it again. The guy played. Play it again. He played. I'm like, I just put my
Which
guitar in the back, wrap it up. I'm like, yeah, there's this thing we want to do. And all of a sudden, he keeps saying, I'm like, dude, didn't I pay you? He say, yes, sir, I respect you. That part, it's okay, sharps, whatever. So I posted it on my Facebook yesterday. A lot of people were laughing and cracking jokes and stuff. And some people were encouraging me to go back to it. And I'm like, it's okay. But ever since that very particular, when I saw it for me and I saw the message 6, you know how Facebook will remind you of some certain things. And I said, I'm like,
mm,
okay, that was nice. At least it cost me money because all of a sudden I did an unnecessary drive through to say I want to learn how to play guitar. It was very
mm.
expensive. A lot of people have asked me to give them that guitar. I said, never. It reminds me on how to quit well. Let's case close. There's something you have your trophy. This one is my trophy on where how to know how to quit and quit quickly. Don't go and stress yourself. So you as a
Uh-huh.
woman now, when is the right time to quit? What are the things that when you look at it and it's not working and you're like, bruh, pop, move on. And you didn't
Yeah.
fail, you didn't work, just move on. When is the right time to quit?
Yeah, I think number one, if you're a believer, then definitely you measure it against the word of God. Does God say this about me? So, when someone starts putting you down and crushing you, especially in
Mm,
relationships, if that's when you just say, you know what, this is not in a working relationship, especially if it's like someone who's bullying and they're
mm,
criticizing you. So you just find an exit strategy. So there's a
mm,
difference between just quitting completely your profession or you're exiting to the next transition. So I think
mm,
many
mm,
times we think that when we're having to transition, we're quitting. So there's
mm,
like giving up and quitting, on
mm,
something. Another thing is where if you've got an assignment and purpose in something, have you completed your assignment?
mm,
And then you hand in your assignment and you move on. But you didn't
mm.
quit on the full mission of whatever it
Yeah,
is that you've been called to.
yeah,
But many
yeah.
times we always think like small missions and milestone objectives are the bigger mission. And then we start
Mm, mm,
compromising and second guessing ourselves. So I think when it comes to quitting is when it's no longer serving you or you've
mm,
outgrown something. That dress says you've outgrown it. Like some people I remember talking to one lady, she was on a contract program and she was contracted and then she knew her end date for the contract. So why are you
yeah,
complaining when the end date comes? It's like that's when your contract was ending. But
yeah,
her bigger dreams were to become a CEO of a company. I said, so you are being told you've outgrown this contract role and you need to step into whatever mission that you have in
mm,
life. Why are you crying for this small role? So
mm,
that's where sometimes we underestimate where we need to go. So I think having a
mm,
vision on where you want to go and understanding that, with every level of growth, there's timing to it. So understand the timing within your spirit when you know it's time to transition. But if you don't have those skills yet, just make sure that you have a long-term plan of where you want to go and then
mm,
start ticking those boxes. So when you complete a certain step or development path, apply
Mm.
yourself and stretch yourself. So yeah, but there's a difference between quitting and completing your assignment. So sometimes when you're done with something, just wrap it up and move on. Don't try to hold on to things that you've outgrown.
With that being said, my last question I want to ask you today. There's a blank billboard. The blank billboard is on the highway. I think you're familiar with N1 Road. The N1.
Mm.
Yeah, good. Because
Okay.
for those who are international listeners, N1 is like saying highways. I don't know how to describe N1, but there's this very particular billboard on both sides. And that very particular billboard has no writing on top of it. And they give you a marker or probably a paint for you to write something on the billboard for everyone to read. What would that thing be?
Hmm.
And maybe
Okay.
that thing may be just part of you, but it's a plain billboard. Write your statement on that board for someone to be motivated about it.
Wow. I think I'll
What
just say, I think it's really on the rise up again. I'll just say rise up. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Because rise up comes from many levels. Like the lockdown caused a lot of people to actually want to throw their vision boards in the trash can. Because they
you can
said,
say
no,
that
you
again.
flipped the script on me. This is not how the movie was supposed to play out. Then it's like, you know what? Let me just cover my head under the blankets and see whatever's going to
Mm,
happen. Rise up again when it comes to maybe relationships that were challenged during lockdown, where people are in
mm,
each other's space and they needed to talk about those difficult conversations. It's like rise up to the level of you who you both committed to become in that relationship. And those
mm.
people need to show up, till the end, COVID or no COVID. Rise
True.
up to build your nation, rise up to build your community, rise up to build your business. Just rise up and become the best version of yourself. Yeah, so rise up.
All right, that's my beautiful guest who happens to be Rebecca. And she's made us to understand that no matter what we do, the best thing in which you need to do is the fact that you just need to rise up. Failure or no failure, you just need to wake up and for you to do what you need to do. Rebecca, I just want to say thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it. My time is far gone, and I can see that I've actually hit 3 minutes into the time. And and that's how when you're having good conversations, maybe we will try with my because I could see some questions still coming in right now. Maybe we could reschedule again with my producer to be able to see how we can then bring you aboard somewhere within this month, not next month, because we're still on the conversations around all things women. For me, I want to
Mm,
see how to bring, I want to showcase women like you to other women who need to be able to come up to the platform. It's very
all
fortunate
right.
or fortunate that it's called platform conversation. It's okay to come up to the platform for them to be able to write their narratives. I really want to appreciate you. How can they find you for someone who wants to, what's it called, consult you or probably take you as a mentor or as a coach? Where can they find you? Which informations you
Sure.
have to?
All right, I'm on Facebook. So it's Rebecca Talks on Facebook, and on Instagram it's Rebecca Kano, Kano, and definitely look forward to hearing from you. Just inbox me or just follow my page. I'll follow you back, and then just post those questions, and we'll get in touch.
All right. Definitely, she said you should follow her, find her anywhere. I think I like saying that if you want to find people, just find them anywhere before you know what is going on. And, you'll see the different method in which you can then definitely be able to get them. But nonetheless, I want to say thank you so much. I appreciate you. And just know too well that at least now you know that I follow you. At least from our phone conversation, now you know, okay, fine. There's somebody that is blowing your trumpet behind. I'm like the Barnabas that is just by the wayside, just looking. And so by the time your picture pop in, I'm like, it's okay. I know
I
her.
know her.
I understand her conversations. I know her narratives. I know where we can then take these conversations to. But just
Mhm.
know that I'm so much proud of you. And thank you very much for rewriting the narratives around women globally and also trying as much as possible to make the women understand that they have best into offer, regardless of what the circumstances are saying. And thank you so much. And I appreciate you. God bless you.
Thank you.
All right, family, that's how we come to the end of this very particular broadcasting today. I believe that you all are blessed from that very particular conversations, knowing too well that you control your narrative. You determine the kind of stage in which you want to be able to climb upon. And also, when you're on that very particular stage, please understand that you direct the show, you direct the design, you direct everything that needs to happen. But the first thing there, like Rebecca said, you need to be able to rise up. You need to be able to rise up. With or without COVID-19, the rising up is also determined by you. God has given you all things. That's one of the things in which you all understand that I keep saying. Everything and all that we'll ever need for us to be able to run this life successfully and be able to come out on top, it has been given to us. First Peter chapter 1 make us to understand that it has been given. If it hasn't been given, then your responsibility is for you to open that very particular gift or probably to open that very particular package. It's a wrap this moment on this very particular platform conversations. You will join me again on Monday for another interesting guest that I'll be bringing up on board to be able to have another conversations around all things women, all things leadership, and all things purpose. It's a wrap from me, Darlington Steve, and I'll see you guys again on Monday for platform conversation. But nonetheless, on Wednesday, you can still catch me again by 1 o'clock as we have the rested live conversation. And on Thursday, we'll be talking about an interesting topic called afflicted but not conflicted. This week, it's going to be back to back. I love you so much. Always know that your pastor loves you and God wants you rested, and the rested life is a reality for you and for me. Bye for now.